I have got quite a few tutorials to do, but today I've decided to start off with one of the nice bold backdrops that have just gone in. So this is one of my favourites. So we're going to open it up, and what we're going to do is we're going to combine this with an image which wasn't actually shot for the purpose of this specific backdrop. But this is not I haven't had this fluff before, so I'm going to make do with an image which I shot on a similar backdrop. So as you know, I always say shoot for the backdrop, because that will make your life the easiest. However, for the purpose of this tutorial, the reason why I chose this image is because it will also show you how to do a colour change. Now, I have done colour changes in previous videos, but it's good if you keep watching those, and then you'll learn more and more every time. So we have a lovely little lady, and she's on a dark purple, and here we have a blue backdrop. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop her picture in to this backdrop, and we're going to close that image down. Now her image has already been retouched in terms of any sort of dry skin and stuff like that, so that's all done. The lighting matches the backdrop, so on the backdrops you can see the lighting is coming here from the left, and on her image that's also the case. So what we need to do is we need to resize her so she fits into this bowl. So we're going to go to Edit, Transform Scale. I'm going to hold down the Shift button and drag the corner. The reason I am holding that button is because it keeps the proportions of the baby and it doesn't end up making her a funny shape. So I'm going to move her here and resize again a little bit more. Now I've reduced the opacity of the layer of the baby because obviously you want to see what you're doing. So if you look on the right hand side, you have the background layer underneath and the baby layer on top. Now that I've got her the correct size, I'm going to increase the baby layer to 100%, and then I'm going to pop a layer mask on it to cover the image up. So Alt layer mask, it pops a black layer mask over the image. Imagine that's a black piece of paper over the picture of the baby girl. What we will do now is we're going to get a white pen and paint over that black paper to reveal the baby underneath. Now what you're going to have here is you're going to have a couple of different options, and I will show you. So firstly, let's paint her in. Now the fluff underneath her is actually slightly out of focus because obviously she's in focus, so whatever's underneath her is further away from the camera, and because I shot this at approximately f4, the background will be slightly blurry. The actual fluff in the bowl is sharper, but you can always add blur and you cannot take it away, so that's why I shoot these in that manner, because not everybody shoots at f4 and some people need the fluff to also be sharp. Okay, so I could do one of two things here. I could actually, if I had the time and inclination and could be bothered, go for a nice hard brush, reduce the size here, and I could actually go around and paint in all of the original backdrop, which means that essentially what we would end up with is the image being on a purple backdrop, which actually would suit this quite well because the purple goes really nicely with the orchids and it wouldn't be a problem. But that's not what I'm going to do here, but it is an option. It retains all the shadows, it retains the colours. In this case it actually goes really well in terms of the tones, but I don't want to do that because I want to show you how we're going to change the colour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the white brush and I'm going to go for a really nice big soft brush, and I'm going to just erase the edges where I painted her in, and then I'm going to go for reducing this brush to about 20%, 24%, around that amount, and then I'm going to erase a little bit more. So you're basically working your way in. You don't want any sharp edges because what we don't want to see is a massive amount of We don't want to see the blending really, we want to keep it as realistic as possible. So that's why I go for 20%, and what you can do, I mean, you can vary this. I prefer to do it, oops, bit by bit, okay. So step backwards, right, so I'm going to take it down even more, maybe to 12%. Because essentially what you want to do is you want to keep the shadows that the baby's on, but you want to avoid any rough edges where you can see the baby's been painted in from elsewhere. And you also have the fact that the backdrop that the baby's on, the fluff is slightly out of focus, whilst this is obviously quite sharp. So yeah, there's quite a few little things that don't quite match. So okay, so I think I'm happy with that. I can see the shadows clearly, but obviously what we have now is a situation where we've got the purple still showing and we want it to be blue. So we're going to flatten the image. We're going to go Control J, and if you look on the right hand side here, that's the image duplicated. We'll now grab a paintbrush, pop it into colour mode, and in colour mode you'll then be able to paint over the purple bits and change them to blue. So bring it in nice and close. I've got the brush. I'm going to sample from the edge here. So to sample, let me just see what did I do. I press Control and just clicked in there. So you're sampling the colour. Or is it? No, it's Alt. Sorry. So Alt, just sample the blue, and over here, bottom left, in the tools palette at the bottom, you'll see that the blue has appeared. Because the brush is in colour mode, what we'll do is we're going to paint over the top layer, and you'll be able to see what is going on. Right, let me just go back to brush. Okay, so the brush is selected, we're in colour mode. I have no idea why this is not actually working right now, because it should be. Maybe the opacity is just a little bit too low. Yeah, it is, yeah. Okay, so let's pop the opacity back to 100%. So paintbrush, blue paintbrush in colour mode, and we're just going to go over that purple and paint it blue. If the colour doesn't quite match, you can always sample the background. Oh goodness, I keep pressing Control rather than Alt. It's Alt when you sample. There we go, and there might be a little bit of a better match. We'll just resample from the edge. The bottom line is it doesn't have to be an exact match, it can be just a different sort of shade of blue. No one will really notice. So to make this accurate, obviously you are going to have to go in close. And I'm going to keep the wrap purple because I like the wrap being purple. So over here you'll see that you're going to have to make the brush a little bit harder around the tootsies, simply because obviously you don't want to be going over the tootsies. And don't forget that you can always put all of that right after with a layer mask, so if you make a mistake it won't be a problem. You'll be able to paint back in the layer at the bottom once you are finished. So accuracy here is a little bit more important. I'm very impatient and I can rush things, and at this precise moment I'm sure that if you start watching a massively long video about editing you will lose the will to live, as I would. So I'm going to be not as accurate as I would normally be because I just want to show you this. So bish bash bosh, you get the idea, right? You can change anything colour wise. Now if you wanted to change the colour of the headband and the wrap you could as well, but it would be a lot more complicated. In fact with this wrap you probably couldn't. The reason why is because unless you're planning to go in close over every thread, when you paint over the wrap you would also be painting over the skin, and unless you're watching Avatar you probably wouldn't see any blue skinned babies, not any that I know of, from the human race anyway. So yeah, so let's not do blue skin. And just to give you a quick illustration of what I mean, hang on a sec, and you can go over all of this, so you can see now this is all blue, but we've got a couple of different shades of blue there, so I'm going to paint over that too, just to match it up. There we go. Okay, so that's been changed to blue, and look, we can reduce the opacity, increase the opacity, you can do whatever you want. You can keep a few bits of purple in there. So what you would do now is, if you wanted to paint any of the layer below back in, we're going to put a layer mask, just a white layer mask, so don't press Alt, and then we would paint with black to reveal the wet layer underneath. And I'm going to show you this blue skin syndrome that I was just talking about. So if I wanted to make this wrap blue, it would be okay here, you know, where you haven't got the flesh poking through. Flesh, that sounds horrible. The skin poking through. Yeah, so it'd be fine there. But if you did it over here, literally the skin goes blue. Not a good idea. So I'm going to go back onto the layer mask, select the black paintbrush, and I'm going to paint back in the original layer from underneath. So I hope that makes sense, and that you can see here if you've made any mistakes or not been as accurate as you should be. You can now also paint in the original bits from underneath. But there you go, this one is done. I hope you enjoyed the video. So flatten, save, don't forget, don't save over your original digital backdrop. Make sure that you save it as a new document. And that is it, we are over and out.